as luck would have it, my video for the encounter got deleted, so I'm having to do another one. I had a change of computer, and for some reason that file I was unable to find again. So I will try to remember everything that I said quite a while ago when I recorded it. I actually recorded it a month or two ago, and it disappeared. So anyhow, I'll try to backtrack as best that as I possibly can. So the encounter is, of course, the banned Twilight Zone episode, the banned episode of Twilight Zone. And it has only been shown on network television 2 times in the past, I guess it would be about, what, 57 or 58 years now. And the first was in 1964, and then again in 2016 on, I believe it was like New Year's Eve Twilight Zone Marathon on the Sci-Fi Channel. And why has it been the banned Twilight Zone episode? Well, if you read the script, which is in Forgotten Gems from the Twilight Zone Volume 2, the only place the script has ever been published, you will kind of see why. And it is a very kind of abrasive script by Martin M. Goldsmith. And the reason I believe it has not entered into syndication is largely because of that, and also because it delves into some areas that are rather objectionable. The main one being the traitorous activities inflicted upon the U.S. by the Japanese, which never in reality actually happened. There were no traitorous activities related to the Pearl Harbor bombing. So let me also mention that really the sort of loss that we have of not seeing the encounter that much in reruns is really the performances of Neville, Brand, and George Takei. And if you can, really kind of look past the sort of racial overtones and so on and so forth that are part of the script, and look into the characterizations, it makes for a much more interesting, if not edifying, sort of viewing experience. And I don't want to underemphasize just how good these actors are. Twilight Zone had, needless to say, they had plenty of fine actors, but it was really these 2 character situations, 2 character studies that come up in any number of episodes. There were 5 or 6 of them, that maybe 1 or 2 more that came up over the 5 years of the show, and including a few in the final in season 5, that were just really quite special, quite fantastic. And Bill Frug, the producer, asked Goldsmith for a second script after What's in the Box had done so well, and I know a lot of people won't agree with me on that, but I think Frug liked Goldsmith's writing because his writing was very brawny, very sort of masculine, if you will. And let me just talk about Goldsmith for a bit. He really had a life. He had a very full life. And I don't even want to call him a Hollywood personality, because really he was not. People know him, if you're a film buff, you know him for his films, his film noirs, and not film noirs, Detour and Narrow Margin and Cast a Long Shadow, and others. And really his writing, he was a very fine film writer, but he also wrote novels. And a friend of mine recently read his novel, I believe it was called Shadows at Noon. And Goldsmith's genius was such that he encapsulated this whole novel. The story takes place over a period of just 24 hours, and somehow he manages to get 200 pages out of it. And so I really recommend to anyone from a literary perspective, read some of his non-Hollywood scripts or non-Hollywood work. Take a look into his novels and other things that he wrote. They're all out of print, but you can get them online in you know, as used copies, really for not that much money, if you can find them. If you can find them. If you're lucky enough to find them. They're on, you know, they appear on Amazon and some of these other, you know, places where you can buy used books. I will admit, I have not read any of his material myself, but I know people who have. I haven't yet, but I plan to. But anyhow, back to the episode. I think, you know, as I say, Goldsmith really did live a life, and it comes out in his scripts. He hitchhiked across the country when he was a young man. He and his wife Estella both had pilot's licenses, and you know, she was from Mexico, Anthony Quinn's sister, and her origins came from Mexico. They lived in Mexico for a time, and it might have even been while they were living in Mexico that the Twilight Zone scripts were written. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I read something online not too long ago that they lived in a certain Mexican town in a certain bracket of years, and I believe that was, you know, maybe I don't know what did he mail? Maybe he mailed in his scripts for Twilight Zone. I don't know. Mailed them into Hollywood, because at that time he was still very active as a writer. In fact, he continued to write up until his death. He ran into health problems, I think, in the mid '80s, but he lived until 1994 and continued to write. His wife Estella mentioned that he continued to write up until the time that he died. So, yeah, but he knew how to do it. He definitely knew how to write. Now, as far as, you know, the elements of prejudice and so on and so forth that come through in any number of Twilight Zone episodes, you know, prejudices today, and I read something here not too long ago, within the last 2 or 3 years, and it might have been Meryl Streep and it might have been someone else. I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was from a female who was an A-list actor in Hollywood, and this person mentioned, if not Meryl Streep, it was someone of her caliber, mentioned prejudice, you know, and racism and everything today maybe doesn't have the same form that it had back in the, you know, in days of long ago, in the, let's say, 50s and 60s. But it's still, you know, we don't have, you know, different restrooms for different races, and, you know, there's no Irish need apply sort of, you know, signs out there anymore, and we don't have separate drinking fountains. But, you know, it takes different forms, but inherently it's all still there. And I think that's why The Encounter has remained a banned Twilight Zone episode. Now, I can think of 1 or 2 episodes, personally, that for me I find more disturbing than The Encounter. I don't really find The Encounter disturbing. And in fact, the ending of it, where the attic door kind of miraculously swings open, kind of signaling an end to, you know, this racial inequality or what have you, is actually kind of touching. But I can think of you know, at least one Twilight Zone episode that I would find, and I've kind of always found rather disturbing, and that's The Shelter by Rod Serling. And a few people agree with me, including the person who directed it, named Lamont Johnson. But I'll talk about that some other time. But as far as, you know, episodes that are kind of, let's just call objectionable, there's more than just The Encounter. There are a few others, but it's just they didn't happen to get excluded from syndication packages. But anyhow, you know, as far as it goes, though, I think The Encounter definitely merits a look. You know, as I say, it's been included in all of the media releases of Twilight Zone, VHS and DVD, Laserdisc, whatever, you know, online streaming. It's just, it has not been rebroadcast more than one time. So maybe in the future it will be. I think it's time to let bygones be bygones, and, you know, since it's so readily accessible anyway on other media, you know, why not just make it available? You know, if it's something that you don't want your kids to see, there's other stuff out there that's far worse. Let's just say that. So anyhow, this was definitely, these videos on What's in the Box and The Encounter are definitely my tip of the hat to Martin Goldsmith, who was, you know, a fantastic writer. And again, I thank his wife Estella for letting me publish both of his fantastically good scripts that definitely were part of the Twilight Zone canon. They fit the format. They fit the bill. and it'd be interesting to see, you know, what you know, if he'd written a third one, what the third one was like. If someone did, you know, 2 episodes, you know, that's obviously not a great number, but if you know, if they did like 3 or more for the series, which someone like, you know, Montgomery Pittman and George Clayton Johnson and maybe 1 or 2 others did, you know, you really get the flavor of, you know, how this person writes. You know, who I'd like to have seen more of was another couple episodes from E. Jack Newman, of course, who wrote The Trouble with Templeton. But thankfully, Goldsmith got two shots on Twilight Zone, something that cannot even be said for Mr. Ray Bradbury, who only got one shot. So some people say, you know, the Twilight Zone was made by writers, and some people say it was made by actors, and, you know, and other people might, you know, go on to say that, you know, it was the producers and the, you know, the production team that, you know, and the film editors who, you know, took all this footage and so on and so forth and spliced it into what we know today. It was really a combination of everything. You can't just single out the writers. But anyhow, that is my commentary on The Encounter, and again, a shameless plug for, you know, anyone who wants to read the script in its original format that came off of Martin M. Goldsmith's typewriter, literally, in finished form, can find that in Forgotten Gems from the Twilight Zone, Volume 2, available from BearManor Media in any number of forms, prints and e-books. So, thank you.